We now continue our weekly land report segment with the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. District 7 Vice President Skye Root joins us now for an update from his region. Skye, thanks for being here. So how, by the way, first of all, is the weather where you are as things, of course, are taking place with harvest season?
Hey, it's a beautiful place in Boise, Idaho. So right now, as in the Pacific Northwest, as we enter the harvest season, knock on wood, but 2023 has brought near perfect growing conditions. So with the exception of a bit of a slow spring, the weather's been very cooperative, not only in temperatures, but also storm timings, pest pressure, smoke issues that we're not having to deal with this year, and a whole bunch of other factors. So when we get down to California, they obviously had their abnormal August hurricane situation. But other than a few nuances from that have affected certain aspects of ag, they've settled back in and are heading towards a good harvest as well. Yeah,
I understand, Scott, you're involved in both permanent and row crop production. So talk about how some of those commodity markets are going.
You know, thank you. We do touch dozens of commodities in my company, in our region. I mean, hundreds in the region, frankly. But why don't I briefly just touch on apples, cherries, potatoes, and alfalfa? First of all, Washington typically produces about 95% of the organic apple crop and about 2/3 of the conventional apples in the U.S. on an annual basis. So this year, we're up about 30% from last year in terms of our production. As I mentioned, weather's been kind to us this summer, and so as we look at production, though, an interesting part of apple production in Washington this year is that about 25% of the production is forecasted to be through what I call specific varietal apples: Honeycrisp, Sugar Bees, Envy, Cosmic Crisp. These new varieties that are getting out there and hitting the market. And tariffs imposed by India on apples actually are removed this year, which will be a great thing. So moving on to cherries, spring weather wasn't ideal for production. It was cold, which pushed California to later, and that caused a real issue in the market in the cherry world. July 4th is when marketing matters, and California and Washington and Oregon were all on top of each other trying to market cherries, and it was a problem. But when we move on to potatoes in the row crop space, we're down from last year. Honestly, about 30 to 50% down from last year. But last year's prices for russet and orchotas, which are what you and I would call table potatoes, they were at historically high levels. We've never in history seen pricing as high as they were last year. But this year, we're still about break even, both in the chipper market and in the table market. So good production, slightly lower pricing, but still profitable. The real issue in commodities in the Western region right now is alfalfa. Due to a variety of inflation issues, exchange rates, currencies, all sorts of different things, port conditions, weather conditions, hay prices are down like 60%. In the Western U.S., and so farmers are really struggling in the hay business.
Yeah. Another topic I'd like to discuss: foreign ownership of farmland legislation. This has been in the news, of course. How are various foreign ownership discussions affecting your region? What are people saying there?
This is a hot topic right now, and it's a very apropos topic. Maybe a few facts. Over the past decade, foreign ownership of ag land has definitely grown. As a result, an interest in restricting and monitoring that is at the front lines of various federal and state lawmaker discussions, and I think it should be. That there are no states with an absolute prohibition on foreign ownership. However, approximately 24 states, basically half of them, have specifically forbid or limited non-resident aliens, business entities. There's a variety of different nuances from owning interests in agricultural land within the boundaries of their state. In my region, Washington, California, Nevada, all allow foreign investment. The rest of the Western states have varying levels of regulatory red tape and what have you. I also find another interesting fact about this that, most people, lean on Chinese ownership. The reality is that the Chinese own only about 350,000 acres of farmland related assets in the United States, and that's mostly tied to Smithfield Foods in the pork business. So Canada actually is the one that owns about half of the foreign ownership in our country. So just some interesting facts and very important policy discussions.
Absolutely. And great to highlight that point, because I think a lot of people have their ideas of what that means. And they think certain countries, when sometimes that's not completely the case. Thank you, Skye. Appreciate you being here. Skye Root with the American Society of Farm Managers and Rural Appraisers. And be sure to tune in each Wednesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, for a weekly land report update.